In a competitive market like Denver, we often see buyers waiving inspections completely in order to have a more appealing offer to sellers. And for some reason, sellers think that that's actually more appealing as well. However, that can actually really bite you in the butt down the line, and this is why. I need a smoothie before I do this. First, I want to talk about what waiving inspections actually means. So when you're drafting up an offer, you have the option to completely waive the opportunity to have an inspector come in, take a look at the house, tell you what's wrong with it, see, if things are up to the standard official regulations. In most cases, inspections are going to be your main way out of a deal. Inspectors can point out major issues wrong with the house, such as structural work to a certain extent, previous work that was done with the house. They can get a sewer scope in there, see how the drainage is. I mean, the list really goes on and on. Waiving an inspection basically means that the buyer is prepared to buy the home in as-is condition. Many sellers may think that this is more appealing because there's less of a chance that the buyer will bail. However, this actually puts more of a responsibility on the seller and the seller's property disclosure. The seller's property disclosure is a disclosure that the seller has to present to the buyer that basically states any and everything that the seller knows about the property. Now, when waiving inspection, the seller's property disclosure is really the only information the buyer will have about this property. What this means is that unless the seller goes into major detail about every crack and every crevice of this house, if the buyer finds some major problem with the property that was not mentioned in the property disclosure that could have easily been found in an inspection, the seller is at risk for being sued by the buyer even after the closing. The seller must disclose everything that they know about the property. Now, this puts a really big weight on the seller's shoulders because maybe they're not as qualified to, state everything that the inspector might have noticed. Maybe they've only been in the house for a year and they don't actually know too much about it. Most of the time, the seller's property disclosure is never as detailed as an inspection report. However, with the proper inspection, the buyer will have all this information professionally presented to them before they close on the house. No seller or buyer or investor or agent wants to be involved in a weird lawsuit because the seller failed to disclose certain things that could have been easily detected in an inspection. Now, there are certain cases where waiving an inspection may seem reasonable. However, when you're buying your house retail, top of the market, you want to be sure you know exactly what you're buying. And that is that, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful, educational, informative. My name is Broker Gayane, associate broker here in Colorado. I will be here every Wednesday with a new video. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to check out brokergayane.com at the seller, buyer, and investor inquiries section. And until then, I'll see you next week.